Los Angeles at night does not feel like a city. It feels like an open market where everything can be bought, everything can be sold, and sooner or later even someone else's pain gets a price tag. Louis Bloom moves through that world like he was built for it. He is thin, intense, strangely polite, and always watching. He sounds like a man who studied the language of success without ever learning the language of normal human feeling. He has no real job, no real friends, and no real life outside survival. He steals metal, sells what he can, and drifts through the city like a shadow that never fully belongs anywhere. One night he tries to get a normal job at a construction site. He gets rejected. No opportunity, no sympathy, no open door. Just another reminder that the world is not planning to hand him anything. He drives through Los Angeles with frustration and ambition building inside him, and then he sees emergency lights cutting through the dark. There is a wreck on the roadside. Fire. Smoke. Sirens. People trying to pull a victim from twisted metal. But what catches Lewis's attention is not the crash itself. It is the cameraman filming it. The freelance cameraman does not help. He does not comfort anyone. He does not look away. He just records the horror with total focus. That is the moment Louis sees his future. He approaches the cameraman and starts asking questions. The man explains the job in simple terms. Get there first. Film the blood, the panic, the chaos, and sell the footage to local news stations before someone else does. Most people would see something ugly in that. Louis sees a business model. No degree. No waiting. No gatekeepers. Just speed, nerve, and the willingness to stare directly at what decent people avoid. That same night, he sells a stolen bike, buys a cheap camcorder, gets a police scanner, and throws himself into the trade with obsessive energy. He begins chasing sirens through Los Angeles. At first, the footage is weak. Too shaky. Too far away. Too late. But Louis is not the kind of man who gets discouraged. He is the kind of man who adjusts. He studies business videos online, memorizes police codes, learns how to pitch, and teaches himself how to look professional. He does not want to be a random cameraman. He wants to become impossible to ignore. His first important stop is a local TV station. That is where he meets Nina Ramina, a sharp but exhausted producer who is desperate to keep her ratings alive. Nina sees his footage and immediately understands that Louis could become useful. She tells him exactly what her audience responds to. Violent crime in wealthy neighborhoods, fear breaking into safe spaces, panic happening in places where viewers thought panic could never happen. She does not want news in the purest sense. She wants fear packaged in a way people cannot stop watching. Louis understands that instantly. He is not just filming accidents anymore. He is feeding appetite. And once he understands the appetite, he starts shaping his work to satisfy it. He upgrades his gear. He studies framing. He learns how to make suffering look cinematic. Police tape becomes composition. Flashing lights become atmosphere. Human pain becomes product. If you enjoy dark movie stories like this, subscribe to Cinema Trigger, leave a like, and comment the next film you want to see. Because this story is not just about crime. It is about ambition with no soul. As Louis improves, he hires an assistant named Rick, a struggling young man who badly needs work. Louis offers him a chance, but what he is really offering is dependence. Rick asks about pay, risk, and fairness. Louis answers with polished speeches about growth, opportunity, and loyalty. He sounds like a businessman, but every word is designed to keep the power in his own hands. That is Lewis's real gift. Not filming, not driving, control. He studies what people need, then uses just enough of it to take charge of the relationship. Very quickly, he starts arriving at crime scenes before other cameramen. He slips under barriers. He gets too close to bodies. He enters places he should never enter. He realizes something terrifying. If nobody stops you in time, almost anything starts to feel possible. Each successful night makes him bolder. The city turns into a hunting ground. He is no longer reacting to chaos. He is chasing it, learning its patterns, building a career out of other people's worst moments. His connection with Nina grows, but not emotionally. Louis is drawn to her position, her desperation, and the way she confirms his value. Nina is drawn to his footage because it keeps her show alive. Their relationship feels less like romance and more like negotiation. Louis treats intimacy the same way he treats business. Every conversation has a purpose. Every compliment is strategic. Every silence is calculated. One night, Louis and Rick arrive at the scene of a brutal home invasion before the police have fully secured it. Inside the house there are bodies, blood, and a feeling that violence has only just finished breathing. Louis films everything, but then he does something even darker. He sees the suspects leaving the neighborhood and chooses not to alert the police right away. In that instant, the line is no longer blurred. He crosses it, knowingly. He understands that the killers are now part of a larger story, and he wants the story for himself before anyone else can take it from him. When he brings the footage to Nina, the reaction is immediate. The station airs it. The audience responds. The ratings rise. Fear sells exactly the way she hoped it would. But Louis is no longer satisfied with being good at the job. He wants to dominate it. He wants to outgrow every competitor in the city and become essential. Joe Loader, the veteran cameraman who first explained the business to him, sees Louis as a dangerous new rival. He tries to warn him about limits, ethics, and the kind of mistakes that never wash off. Louis listens politely and then sabotages Joe's van. He does not threaten him openly. He does not explode with rage. He removes him from the race with the cold efficiency of someone solving a practical problem. That detail says everything about Louis Bloom. He does not lash out. As his success grows, he improves everything around him. Better car, better scanners, better cameras, better editing, better clothes. He starts to look like a polished, self-made entrepreneur. But Nightcrawler is disturbing because Louis is not corrupted by success. Success simply gives him room to reveal what was already there. Rick starts noticing how dangerous the work is becoming. They are no longer just filming accidents. They are moving closer to criminals, closer to police operations, closer to situations where a bad decision could get someone killed. Rick asks for more money and more respect. He wants to be treated like a person instead of a disposable tool. Louis takes that personally. To him, value means usefulness. Loyalty means obedience. The second someone stops being fully controllable, they become a problem. Meanwhile, Nina becomes more dependent on him by the night. She knows his footage crosses ethical boundaries, but it also performs better than almost anything else on her program. She tells herself she is surviving in a brutal business. In reality, she is surrendering to it. That is one of the most unsettling truths. In Nightcrawler, Louis is monstrous. Yes, but the system around him rewards him every step of the way. He is not succeeding despite the media machine. He is succeeding because he understands exactly what it wants. The home invasion story comes back when Louis tracks the suspects to a restaurant. Now he has a real chance to help the police, honestly and directly. But honesty is not what interests him. Staging is. He calls the police only after he has placed himself where he wants to be, after he has already decided how the chaos should look through his lens. The confrontation explodes. Gunfire, crashes, shouting, sirens tearing through the streets. It is exactly the kind of nightmare a local news station dreams of owning. Louis films it all with near religious focus. The city becomes a stage. Violence becomes content. His face does not show horror. It shows concentration. One suspect dies. Another escapes on foot. The chase tears through the city while Louis follows it like a predator that has already smelled blood. When the surviving suspect crashes and disappears into the dark, Rick wants to stay back. Any sane person would. Louis tells him to get closer and get the shot. That order is not reckless in a confused way. It is deliberate. Louis knows the suspect may still be alive. He knows Rick is exposed. He knows exactly what could happen, and he sends him anyway because the footage matters more than the human being holding the camera. Rick obeys. The suspect shoots him. Rick falls to the ground, bleeding, terrified, and finally understanding that Louis never saw him as a partner. He was only ever an instrument. That is the most disturbing moment in the entire film. There is no illusion left after that. No charming hustle, no darkly admirable ambition. Whose pure exploitation. Louis does not rush to help him. He kneels down and films him. He records Rick's pain and final moments, with the same focus he has given to car crashes, murders, and police chases. Rick's death is not a tragedy to him. It is exclusive material. And then Lewis says something chilling. He tells Rick he cannot work with someone who asks for more than the job is worth. Even with Rick dying in front of him, he speaks like a manager closing out a personnel issue. The police arrive. The suspect is dead. The footage is extraordinary. Nina gets the ending her show wanted. Louis gets something more important than a quick paycheck. He gets leverage. Later, he edits the truth to protect himself. He hides what he delayed. He hides what he knew. He turns reality into a version that keeps him valuable and avoids making him look guilty. And it works. That is the most uncomfortable blow in the whole story. Louis does not lose. He wins. Not because the world failed to understand him, but because the world had already created the perfect environment for someone like him to thrive. A man with no empathy enters a machine that rewards speed, sensation, and results. The outcome is almost inevitable. By the end, he is no longer a desperate scavenger. He has multiple vans, better equipment, new hires, and a growing operation. He has turned moral emptiness into a business strategy. He stands in front of his new team and gives them a speech about growth, standards, and the future. He sounds confident, ambitious, almost inspiring from the outside. That is what makes it even worse. Nightcrawler is not just about one creepy man filming crime scenes. It is about what happens when ambition loses all connection to conscience. Louis Bloom is terrifying because he never thinks of himself as evil. In his mind, he is disciplined, adaptive, competitive, and willing to do what others are too weak to do. That is why the movie sticks with people. This is not loud evil. It is professional evil, smiling evil, efficient evil. Evil that invoices, negotiates, and arrives before anyone else. And the city does not reject him. The television industry does not shut him out. The audience does not really punish him. Everyone, in one way or another, helps feed him. That is the final poison at the center of Night. The monster's not just Louis Bloom. The monster's the appetite that makes him useful. The hunger for shocking images, well-packaged fear, and tragedy delivered in the perfect frame. Louis simply learns how to give that appetite exactly what it wants. And that is what makes the film so unsettling. He does not feel like an impossible nightmare. He feels like an extreme version of something that already exists in modern life. Systems that reward results while refusing to look too closely at the cost. Nightcrawler does not end with justice. It ends with expansion. That makes it more disturbing than many thrillers, where the villain is punished in the last scene. Because here, the message is not that evil escaped by accident. It is that, in the right environment, evil can become highly employable. It can wear a clean shirt, speak the language of ambition, and look almost admirable if you do not stare at it for too long. That final idea transforms the movie into more than a thriller. It becomes a brutal portrait of modern emptiness, predatory ambition, and a culture willing to reward whoever can package horror most effectively. If this story stayed with you, subscribe to Cinema Trigger. Leave a like, and comment the next movie you want on the channel, because the darkest stories are not always about killers hiding in the shadows. Sometimes they are about the man behind the camera, smiling at chaos and discovering that in the right system, not having a soul can feel like a competitive advantage.